Hi everybody, welcome to our live tour of the Fiume Fantastika exhibition. We are Morana and Renato, part of the Rijeka 2020 team. We work for the University of Rijeka, so thank you once again for joining us. We'll do a quick live tour of the exhibition, but first we'll explain why we are here currently, what's this background behind us, and what are some of the future plans for our research center at the university. So in 2016, when we found out that we were going to be the capital of culture in 2020, basically the University of Rijeka became a sort of a strategic partner of the Capital Culture project, which is not always the case in other capitals of cultures, but in Rijeka it was the case, and it basically allowed us to sort of have a different take on the formats and content of cultural programming as a part of the project. So because all the other events and programs were sort of basically were organized and prepared and produced by the Rijeka 2020 agency, which was set up by the city. And so basically at the University of Rijeka, in order to produce all the programs and to do everything that we wanted to do, which is basically to, either transform this zone that follows the river and then the part of the city, which is the port or the remnants of the old port, is where basically this river goes into the sea. So that's why our program was called Sweet&Salt. And so basically everything that we wanted to do is that we wanted to combine architects, designers, philosophers, sociologists, artists as well, in order to try to I guess reinvent the whole area, but not do it, strictly from a sort of a expert point of view and not strictly from an activist point of view. So it's basically trying to combine all of those things. And so in order to do that, we needed to set up a new research center, a research/production center, I guess, which is called DeltaLab. So basically, Morana and I are a part of the DeltaLab team. And so for a couple of years, we prepared the program that was kind of supposed to start at the beginning of 2020 and end sometimes, I guess, the beginning of 2021. Of course, the whole situation with the coronavirus and the everything, the financial situation which is connected to that as well, didn't allow us to complete our full plan that we set up. But I think we're quite satisfied that we managed to do basically a lot within these circumstances. And so our program was not just, when we say reinvention, it's not just sort of a theoretical reinvention as well, but we also wanted to do some very concrete measures and concrete steps within the space of the city, and basically within the space that is not in the city, but it's a part of either some former industrial site or the port, which is still very much alive and running, but not anymore in the city center. And so it wasn't just a question of cultural programming, but also kind of analyzing and critiquing, some real estate policies or negotiations or relationships between the state, the city, artists and citizens, and the university, obviously, where kind of we belong. So we did a very ambitious program, which involved, theoretical stuff, workshops, presentations, but also some urban installations, some zone transformations, and also building transformation, and of course this Fiume Fantastika exhibition, which is sort of the highlight of our program, and I would dare to say also the program of Rijeka 2020 in general. And so we are here live in one of the buildings or former warehouses that we transformed. So I'm going to give the one a chance to speak a little bit more about why it's so much important that we speak about the building first and then about the exhibition.
Exactly. So Export the building is in the center of the city of Rijeka, and it was a part of the Port Authority location. What we managed to do is exclude this building from the Port Authority and create it into a space for art and culture. And this is a space which welcomed a lot of Rijeka 2020 programs, a lot of exhibitions, and among them is Fiume Fantastika, Phenomena of a City, the main exhibition that was designed and created by Sweet&Salt flagship. This exhibition is placed in the northern part of the warehouse, and it seems like we made a small city, a small Fiume, a small Rijeka, with the setup of the exhibition, which is divided into 10 pavilions that are on the main street, on the corridor, and the audience will walk down the street and enter each pavilion left or right, depending on what is their interest. There's no right or wrong way. You can choose your own way around the exhibition. We prepared a small presentation with photos just to make it easier to understand the movement through the exhibition space. So we're going to share the screen and show you the building and what is Fiume Fantastika and why we are calling it fantastic. So the building Export drво is in the center of city of Rijeka. This is the dead canal. On the right side here is the National Theatre, and on the left side here is this old storage house which was used for storage of wood. This is Export drvo, and this is the photo from the opening, from the exhibition opening. And this is how Export drvo looks like now. So the exhibition space is divided into these 10 pavilions, as we said, and each pavilion is actually describing one theme. As we researched about the history of Rijeka, we focused our attention on the last 150 years of urban history, and we discovered 10 phenomena that we wanted to describe and wanted to present as exhibitions. So each pavilion is one phenomenon, and this is the first one. First one is called Port and Railway, and it's talking a story about how the railway came to Rijeka and how the development of the city started. The second pavilion is dedicated to borders, since Rijeka in the history is actually a city that had a lot of borders coming through the city itself, and we wanted to show the story about this division that happened in the city through architecture. The third pavilion in this presentation is called Network, and it's telling the story about all the networks, all the movements of things and merchandise that actually influenced on the development of Rijeka and created its identity. The fourth pavilion is actually a cinema, because each grand city, each fantastic city needs to have a cinema in its space. And for this pavilion, we actually created, created with Igor Bezinovic and Majda Srabovic a special movie, short film called People Are Coming, that is telling the story about great individuals that either created Rijeka or destroyed Rijeka, but nevertheless they influenced on its identity in the past and to the identity that it has today. The next pavilion is called Palace, because we needed to explain, of course, the architecture with the palaces in Rijeka, because Rijeka has its many palaces. We were focused on 5 of them, which were the best examples to explain the transgressions of each palace and the transgression of the city itself. The 7th pavilion is called Leisure, because the tourism and the architecture that is being developed through tourism in Rijeka and around Rijeka is also a very important element in its history. And this one is created as a small beach to make reference directly to the tourism and the touristic attractions that were happening around Rijeka. Pavilion The City is actually a computer game that we created, which you can, of course, play or just decide to be a viewer from the outside. And you are going through Rijeka in this virtual space, through real Rijeka, through the old part of Rijeka, and discovering new elements about Rijeka, Rijeka's history, and you're actually learning through playing. We wanted to include different elements that will attract audience in various ways, because this exhibition is created for everybody, from people from 3 years old to 93 years old. So in the exhibition space, you can actually find something for everybody. The pavilion Common Ground is talking a story about how Rijeka was being built through digging out land and putting in new land. Rijeka was couldn't develop because it didn't have a lot of empty spaces. So people were digging elements of mountains and then putting them down and creating new land. And this new land was actually land that was used for different type of sports activities and different type of gatherings. So this is why this pavilion needs to tell the story about the new common ground that has been created in Rijeka. This is the interior of the pavilion, and ninth pavilion is called monuments. When you're talking a story about the architecture and the power and the people that were developing the city and creating its identity, monuments are something that we could not skip. So we had one great collaborator here on this project, this pavilion. His name is Luca Scansi. He's a professor at Politecnico Milano, who actually made curatorial selection of the monuments that are present and created in Rijeka and around Rijeka, to show this importance of art in public space, art in city space, and the importance of certain people that were themes for these monuments. This is the interior. And the last pavilion is actually called Fantastic Zones. Fantastic Zones are telling a story about the potential futures of Rijeka. When we were researching Rijeka, we found three parts of the city that were very interesting to us because they were interesting connection between a life in industry, work, and nature and food that was being planted in this nature elements. We discovered that the three parts of Rijeka actually are the parts that have this new potential future that is going to create something new that these places can create it. So we made one digital presentation of these parts, talking about the future that we can expect in 50 or 100 years. And the pavilion itself is set on a screen, like a movie screen, like a movie set. So the audience, as they enter, they actually enter this movie set and enter these futures. And behind this blue screen that you see, we actually took all the materials from our office, all the mental maps, let's say it like that, that we were using while we were creating the concepts for each pavilion. And last but not least important is the so-called 11th pavilion, which is actually a timeline. But it's not a line, it's a set of 52 flags that are telling a story about the history and the history of Rijeka in the last 150 years. But they have two sides. One side is giving you text, is giving you basic information like from a history book with photographies and maps and all the archive materials. And on the other side of this flags, you actually have glitch combination of different flags that were present at a certain time in Rijeka and in either a state or a monarchy or a kingdom in which Rijeka was at that moment. And at the end, let's just show you a couple of overall photos of the exhibition space, so you can see how the size of the space and the size of these pavilions. We are actually in the exhibition space, so you can see people walking behind us because it's normal working hours. And I must say that we are rather satisfied with the job that we did with this project that we created. And I must say that the audience also very well recepted all the exhibition and all the programs that we are creating as a follow-up program.
So back to the live part of the exhibition now. What we wanted to do now is basically to just show you a little bit around. So we're going to take the laptop and just walk around a little bit so you can feel the size and of the space and how sort of this exhibition fits into the space. And then we go back here to this position to speak a little bit about our experience doing the whole thing and what are next steps and the future of our research center is, or what the legacy of the Rijeka 2020 cultural program is going to be, in the sense of new spaces and new creativity and new energy happening in the city. So I'll just take you around a little bit just to show you just a few pavilions. We won't go into all the pavilions into detail. For that, maybe some of you can come to Rijeka. So this is the border exhibition, or basically the pavilion that speaks about the borders. So coming back to the street, we go into the port and railway part, which speaks a lot about the infrastructure, basically the history of infrastructure of Rijeka. And so we go back to the center street again, go towards the networks, which Morana spoke a lot about how networks were important about Rijeka, since Rijeka doesn't have any natural resources, basically. So we pretty much dependent about various networks that Rijeka was part of and is a part of now. And then we go to this cinema pavilion, which we won't go inside now since the movie is currently happening, just to see the look. And so we are on the square now, which we use for various panels and discussions regarding the topics presented in the exhibition, which is very important, of course, to kind of not just legitimize, but also to have a sort of critique about our approach of reading the city as we did it, because obviously using all the materials that we had, other readings of the city are very possible and of course are very welcome in order to have a proper discussion about the identity of the city. Then we are coming to this leisure pavilion, which also my colleague spoke a little bit about why, various types of tourism developed in Rijeka, which are not common or not something that you would see in other Mediterranean cities. Then the city pavilion basically speaks of the story about the old city, which was kind of gentrified even 100 years before before we knew what gentrification is. Then we go to this monuments pavilion, which is basically speaking the story about various monuments within the city and also around the city. We speak about various events which are important to Rijeka. Then we come to this sort of fantastic zones pavilion, which I don't know if you'll be able to see. We have an app that basically transformed this blue color behind this bunker into a movie set, which Morana also speaks about. So basically you can have sort of this virtual reality situation happening. And then finally, this common ground exhibitions with actual rocks from these various places around Rijeka that were dug up throughout the history. And so we'll go back to our former position to kind of finish this whole discussion. You can see the timeline flags basically running through the whole space, which enables the visitor to kind of walk through the history of the city in sort of real time. And so basically what we wanted to say again about not just the exhibition, but the importance of why we are here currently. So during the whole project and as part of the whole project, there was a lot of sort of infrastructural processes going on. So a whole new art district has been built, and it's still being built at the outskirts of the city center. So it's a sort of a new hub that is going to host basically most of the Rijeka's museums and some other important institutions. And so this warehouse is still in the city center in the former port area. And so it's very important to have this space as well, not just the typical institutionalized space, because in this space here in this warehouse we can do a lot of experiments. And basically we can experiment with space a lot, and we can do some productions that would be possible in typical museums, for various technical and logistical reasons. So we believe that this space that we worked on is going to be an important legacy, not just, again, for the cultural sector or the entertainment sector, but also for the citizens as well, because now they can fully see the potential of warehouses and spaces like these and how they can work for the citizens and for the city, not just uh, for new industries or new types of whatever warehouses can be, sort of investments and stuff like that. So yeah, now we are working on the book Fiume Fantastika, which is going to kind of expand the stories that we found out during the research process.
The book that is not the catalog of the exhibition, but it's a new layer of reading Rijeka and a new layer of Fiume Fantastika exhibition.
Exactly. And so hopefully this book as well can become a reader for urban studies, because we also prepared, basically created this whole new study program that is going to start next year at the University of Rijeka, which is going to be called Urban Studies. So it's going to be a sort of again a combination of design, architecture, but also sociology, politics, design, culture, art. And so hopefully we can not just speak on these conferences like this one, but also educate a sort of a new generation of students that is going to kind of take the methodology that we developed and apply it, not just in Rijeka, but maybe other parts of Europe and the world as well. And so I think the next big project besides this one, but in a similar context, is going to be the Venice Biennale, since we also are working on the Croatian pavilion at the Venice Biennale next year, the architectural one.
Because the team that will present Croatia at Venice Biennale is actually a team of people that have been working on the hugest programs here in Export. Those people were either related to Fiume Fantastika or the other exhibition present in the space at the moment, which is called the Glowing Sea. So actually, Export will be in some level presented also as part of a Biennale presentation.
Exactly. And so, yeah, I guess this concludes our presentation, a very short one. I don't know if maybe some of the audience has any questions. I guess we can take any questions now if you want.
If questions are needed, but if not, we'll just call it a day and hope that that you'll be able to come to Rijeka and to see what we actually did in this mix of port and city location.
Exactly. Yeah, the exhibition is open to the end of the year, so if any of you has a chance to come, we'll be more than glad to welcome you here in person. Yeah, thank you very much, and goodbye from Rijeka.
Bye.